Hey, good morning, everyone. We're about to get started. We can just find our seats, and if someone in the back would close the back door, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Things on. Oh, yes, they are. Better shut it off.
Ten AM start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 10:21 AM. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley,
Here.
Councilperson Prinzary,
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano, Councilperson Saleh,
Here.
Councilperson Solomon. Not here today, that's correct. Councilperson Gilmore,
Present.
Councilperson DeGise is not here. Councilperson Rivera
Here.
and Council President Waterman will not be here.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. So we have 6 council members in attendance at 10:21 AM. All right. In accordance with New Jersey laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by on the bulletin board, the posting on the bulletin board of City Hall, the first floor, the annual notice, which is the schedule of all caucuses and council meetings for the calendar year 2023.
One is Resolution 23-613, 10.56. This resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Herc Rentals for the rental of various equipment associated with the construction of the de-escalation center pistol range. Total amount of the contract is $50,000 and it is funded through the DPW capital account.
Any questions?
Next resolution is 23-614, 10.57. This resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Cummins Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of an emergency generator for the de-escalation center pistol range through the Sourcewell Coop. The total amount of the contract is $151,120 and is funded through the DPW capital account.
Questions?
Next is 23-615, 10.58. Resolution will authorize the renewal of a contract with Creative Outdoor Advertising of America to provide the city with public outdoor waste and recycling receptacles. Under this contract, the city will receive the sum of $175 per receptacle and 5% of the contractor's gross advertising revenue per receptacle.
Questions?
23-616, 1059, resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Rochelle's Michelle Oil Company for the purchase and delivery of diesel fuel under New Jersey state contract. Total amount of this contract is $750,000 with a temporary encumbrance of $10,000 and is funded through the DPW operating account.
Questions?
Resolution 23-625, 1068, a resolution will authorize the renewal of a contract to Tamino's Towing to provide various towing and recovery services citywide. Total amount of this contract is $100,000 with a temporary encumbrance of $1,000 and is funded through the DPW operating account.
Questions?
23-626, 1069, the resolution will ratify a month-to-month extension not to exceed 3 months of a contract with Amber Air Incorporated to provide HVAC and boiler maintenance for the Department of Public Works Division of Buildings and Streets. Total amount of this extension shall not exceed $80,000 with a temporary encumbrance of $3,000. Funding for the matter is covered under the DPW operating account.
Questions?
And the last is 23-627, 10.70. Resolution will authorize the purchasing agent to conduct the sale of municipal personal property, 124 vehicles no longer needed for public use.
Questions? Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Director Shea?
No, wait, 60, 59 and 60. 59 and 60.
Stand by, Director Shea.
Is this, well, I guess one is just for diesel and the other one is for gas, 59 and 60. Okay,
Yeah, it's just that we have to separate the commodities. So diesel for the trucks, obviously, gas for the vehicles.
Director Shea?
Good morning, President Pro Tempore, members of the council. The Department of Public Safety has one first reading ordinance and two resolutions this morning. With me is Chief Steve Drennan from the Fire Department in case there are questions about the first reading ordinance. Restart?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Ordinance 23-081, it's agenda item 3.4 for a first reading, and ordinance amending Chapter 3, Article 6, Section 41 of the Jersey City Municipal Code to authorize the business administrator to execute license agreements with owners of high-rise buildings under construction to permit the Division of Fire and Emergency Services to conduct high-rise crane operator rescue training and fire suppression system training. And two, approving a form license agreement for that high-rise crane operator rescue training and fire suppression system training.
Any questions?
Mike's not.
We passed an ordinance about a year ago saying that the crane operators had to be licensed. I mean, now I don't understand this.
Yeah, this is about actual rescue, right? Unique challenges we got with buildings, high rises that are under construction concerning the towers. And while that building's under construction, also fire suppression. So that allows us to go there, do pre-plan and actual hands-on training at these facilities with the agreement of the owner.
Yeah, well, I think you should also look into, we've had a lot of problems in our area with all these high-rise constructions. The workers smoking pot while they're on their lunch breaks. So I think maybe the police department and the fire department should start getting involved because I'm tired of all the accidents happening up, especially at Magnolia and Baldwin, Magnolia and Summit. So.
Yes, Councilperson.
Okay. You have a question?
so who
Yes.
who handles the licensing agreements now? If they're saying that it's going to essentially go under the business administrator, who does it now?
The business administrator handles all license agreements. This is just asking your permission for us to enter into one for these purposes. The purposes of
additional.
crane rescue and fire suppression training.
Do we currently have any training for crane operators or a high rise? Or is this a new, is this something new that we're endeavoring to accomplish?
Yeah, we do ongoing training all the time. We completed a 2-week course in April, and we're doing it again in September. But to actually participate at the locations we're going to respond to are very important to us.
There seems to be just a little confusion. This is not for the crane operators. This is for the
For us.
firefighters in case like what happened in New York City where a crane collapses, for them to practice on site where these cranes will be set up. So they're ready in case, God forbid, something happens.
Okay.
Okay, following, we have two resolutions. The first one is agenda number 10.72, resolution 23-629. It's authorizing an award of a contract to Software House International for the Fortinet co-term renewal for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Communications through the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance. It's in the amount of $21,018 and change. This is the VPNs and the ensuing firewalls that allow our two-factor authentication on our critical communications.
Questions? Go ahead.
And then the next agenda is 10.73, Resolution 23-630. It's a resolution authorizing the Jersey City Department of Public Safety to apply for and accept funds under fiscal year 2023 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant state program through the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. we're going to ask for $157,193 for the continuation of foot and vehicular patrols that will address quality of life complaints and undercover tactical gang and drug enforcement operations. This has been an ongoing grant for 40 years now, I guess. And we apply every year as long as we meet the federal requirements.
Questions?
Hey, Director, I do have a question, not regarding this, but regarding, the budget, because the budget is slated to get voted on again. I just wanna know if it's possible, if we can get a breakdown of the overtime and the allocation of the overtime. Just something as simple as saying, I don't know, 30 officers, 4 sergeants, whatever it is, so we can just make sense of the spending. Because I know for any business, any corporation, right, for them to justify things, they have to prove stuff. So I know for me, when I'm looking at these budgets, I need to see how money was being spent so we can get a breakdown.
It's requested through the business
Yeah.
administrator. We'll turn it over and he'll produce it to you.
Yeah, Councilman, I know you expert. We did provide a report that was more robust, but now we're trying to get the
Granular.
yeah. So just so you know how that kind of works is it's 26 separate reports for the 26 pay cycles and we're combining it. So it just took a little bit of time, but we're putting it together.
Okay.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Director, can I ask you one more question? Everybody in this city is complaining about the motorcycles racing down streets. I'm tired of hearing about, the police department's afraid to chase them because afraid of lawsuits. Put walking cops out in the streets, stop the bikes. We had another accident last night with a motorcycle. A person was killed. It's gotten out of hand and something has to be done. And people in this city are tired of what's going on. And I'm not talking, I was at the festival and I must have, about 100 people came to me and said they're sick and tired of this. And the police department has to start taking some action.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman.
Director Webb, Vivian Webb.
Council President. I have 2 items. First item is, item 10.2, resolution 559, which is the resolution authorizing the insertion of special item revenues for the appropriation for the municipal budget. These are the grants that are going into the budget that we have pending today.
Questions?
What, and
0.2.
10.2.
okay.
Next one.
Second item is item 10.88, which is 23,645, which is the authorization to allow us to open up to competitive bidding for a contract that we're seeking, RFP that we're seeking for grant application coordination and compliance. So we're looking for a consultant who would do all 3 items for us instead of a consultant that only does application.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Toloza.
Good morning, Council President Pro Tempore and members of the council. I'm here for item 10.3, 10.4, and 10.5. 10.3, a resolution granting veteran exemption from local property taxation. This veterans, we get these veteran applications from time to time. Once they show us the what you call the TD14, that they would be entitled to a property exemption on their principal residence. In this particular instance, we got 2 veterans who applied total exemptions on their principal residence in the total amount of $8,000.
And let me ask you a question. When you speak about the DD 214, is that those exemptions are just honorable, medical, and general discharge, or just all, or everything under DD 214?
DD 240, basically, those are the ones that are war,
Combat veterans?
yeah,
Okay.
war connected disability, 100% disabled.
Okay, next.
Next item is a resolution to council 2018 and 19 real estate taxes on a cell tower that did not exist. Every so often, when sometimes we construe those because our inability to access the roof, we construe some of the objects on the roof as if those are regular cell towers. A lot of times we send letters to the property owner, and we don't get any response. We make the opinion that there is existing a cell tower, and then subsequently, when the collector is collecting some of the taxes due, they substantially have proven themselves that there is no existing cell tower on this particular on Chestnut Avenue.
Questions?
Yes, let me ask you something. You're talking about putting up these, on top of buildings, these cell towers and stuff. Are they paying taxes on them?
Yes, they do. Sometimes we match the permits from the planning board. After a while, we go out there and inspect it. All cell towers basically are being built or being taxed.
They are, because last week I noticed putting up a cell tower in my area, and I'm going to notify you. I want to make sure they're paying taxes, because the people came to me in the neighborhood saying, we're paying taxes, and they want to make sure they're paying.
Yes, I will give you the
I'll
information.
call you.
Okay, all right, thank you. The resolution 10.5, resolution authorizing the payment of a claim submitted by the appraisal company. What happened here is that because of the delay in the responses on the request for proposal, it's not exactly at the height of the COVID, but you're talking about 2021 when the RFP basically should have gone out, and we did not get the responses on time. It took a while before the actual contract was done, and this was for 2023. In the meantime, there were compelling reasons that we need the services of an expert to address the ratio that was promulgated by the state, and also some of the various tax appeals we have to address. In other words, we accrued these expenses without the contract in place then.
Questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Rodriguez, Division of Commerce.
I'm here on several items. The first item being item 10.74, resolution 23-631, a resolution awarding professional service agreement to Ronald P. Mandello to provide legal advice and counsel to the Jersey City Cannabis Control Board.
Any question? What number are you?
10.74.
10.74, resolution 23-631.
Oh, that's. Questions?
What number was that?
31.
10.74?
Yes,
All right, can I ask you a question? You're asking us to hire an attorney to provide for the Jersey City Cannabis Control Board. Why should the taxpayers be paying it? Why aren't the people that are opening these stores paying for that? Why should I and others here pay for another attorney?
this is the renewal of his contract. He is the current Cannabis Control Board attorney, and this is renewing his contract for another year.
BA, you have anything?
Yeah, Councilman, so as she described, this is a renewal. All the boards do have associated attorneys. And what we try to do is some of those application fees, though they're not dedicated to those specific costs, we do use those dollars to offset the costs. So The planning board, the zoning board, now this board, they all do have legal representation.
How much are we paying this
ABC.
attorney, John?
To not to exceed 85,000 annually.
85.
85,000,
Not to exceed, so he's issued up to 85,000.
and you're saying the taxpayers aren't paying for it?
What I'm saying is that the application fees help offset the cost. We can't take those dollars and dedicate them specifically to him, but it turns around, just as we do with the planning, zoning, ABC board, et cetera.
So this attorney helps in the whole process with regards to interpretation and advising and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilman. And as we know, some of these meetings do go well late into the night, so he is definitely using the services.
Next one.
The next item is item 10.75, Resolution 23-632. It's a resolution providing local support for Chilltown Dispensary LLC to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis business. They are located at 326 Central Avenue. They were approved by the CCB on November 14, 2022, and they received planning board approval on April the 25th, 2023. They have one MOU with New Jersey Reentry Corporation for 1% of their annual profits. They're a standard business and diversely owned.
John, what are we doing with cannabis? Some people are saying they can apply, some people, I don't know what's going on.
So right now, actually, we do have a second reading that we have representatives to discuss. So I defer the council president, but maybe we want to discuss that item first about the regulatory and then go on to the applications, if that would work.
Let's do that.
All right. Yeah. So if you don't mind, just stick around and we'll have the attorney come up, represent the ordinance, and then we'll come back to the licensing.
Do the rest of this?
See Matt? Matt too.
Yeah, this is right next to the school. Dixon High School, out there smoking pot as it is.
Hi, good morning, Council President Pro Tempore and council members. I'm here to discuss ordinances 23-077 and 23-078, which are items 4.
We want to get closer to the mic, we can't
Yes,
hear.
there are no worries. 4.5 and 4.6, which are amendments to Chapter 84 of the Municipal Code relating to recreational cannabis, and Chapter 345, which is related zoning changes that are proposed. And I think the question that prompted me coming up now was about the cannabis process as it stands right now. As the council might recall, there's a moratorium or a delay on accepting new applicants to the Commerce Department and the Cannabis Board. And the purpose of that delay was to allow time for the passage of changes to Chapter 84 without, while having clear lines as to which applicants the changes would apply to. In other words, because this legislation is intended to apply prospectively, meaning moving forward only, those applicants who are already in the pipeline would still have the old rules apply to them, so that all the expectations that the council, the city, and the applicants had at the time they submitted their documents, we wouldn't overturn those. But for folks going forward, we would have new rules, some new rules, nothing I don't think too extraordinary, but some new rules and some clarity on how the process is going to work that will hopefully streamline it. Obviously, I'm happy to discuss those as you see fit.
So the new legislation or the amendments to the legislation will only affect new recipients or new individuals that apply, correct?
Correct. So everyone who has already submitted their paperwork, no matter where they are in the process after that point, will have the previous rules apply to them. So we want to keep that as similar as possible and keep the expectations in line with that. But we did recognize that we were going to introduce some new rules that would change things, such as the proposed cap on the total number of Class 5 retailers and some other pieces of the process that respond to litigation the city faced. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of split those two sections up. So that was the reason for the moratorium, was to allow the previous applicants to keep playing by the same rules that everyone's been playing with since the law was originally passed. And then for those going forward, who after the moratorium or the delay is over, when they apply, they can play by the new rules if assuming they pass.
So let's say the moratorium lifted September 1st. Everyone who applies on or after September 1st will be subject to these new set of amendments.
Correct.
So everyone else is,
Grandfathered in.
Everyone else is already in the process at some point.
but we really ain't solved no problems, basically, because there's gonna be 150 applicants. How many applicants are already in the queue waiting to be heard?
I believe there are around 19 or 20 that are in the process still. But this is what I understand your concern. So what happens with the proposed ordinance is that there's a cap on the total number of licenses of resolutions of local support that the city can give out, which creates a much more competitive process for anyone who applies under the new rules. So the September 1st and on, as in your hypothetical. So in that case, we've also rewritten Chapter 84 to allow the Cannabis Board to have a lot more control over when and how it hears those applicants, since in the past it was less about choosing, the very best applicant and more about making sure everyone jumped over the hurdles we had placed. In other words, they complied with all the rules that were in place. If we're going to have a lid on the number of total applicants that we allow, then we need to have a process that allows a batch of them to come through for the number of licenses available, and the board can hear them at once and decide which ones the city, it thinks the city should support. And so in that way, it's, less of a first one through the door gets a license and more of a process that allows for something akin to competitive licensing.
No, I understand that, and I think it's great. But my only fear is that because you said there's 19 waiting, there's a plenty already approved, there's a cap that's going to be on it. So no matter what, once you apply after September 1st, it's a long waiting period.
Yeah, and part of the reason why we set the cap the way we did is that the number of applicants already in the pipeline exceeds the cap. Now, we've set it up so that those applicants will not be punished and held to that cap number. But in order for a new license to come up, the number of licenses has to be under the allowable amount. In other words, for some period of time after the passage of this ordinance, there may not be a license available. And so applicants would know that and know that if they do submit an application, that it will have to wait to even be heard until there's the opportunity for local support to be issued by the council.
Councilwoman Ridley.
So two questions. So anyone who applied before we started the moratorium, we should be seeing them on our agenda soon, right?
Yes, obviously, I think we know that there have been reasons why it's taken longer, some longer than others, but they are all in the pipeline and no one is going to be cut off from being heard by the Cannabis Board and then by extension the council.
Okay, because I have cannabis companies emailing saying that they're being held up, but they've already gone through CCB and got their approvals. So I guess what's the holdup for the people who have already applied before that deadline and already passed CCB? That's the first question.
I'm not exactly sure without seeing the application file, but I know they still have to get through the planning side of things and then get themselves prepared to be in front of the council for a vote. I don't know about more.
Just wait one minute. Peter, can you answer that?
I was gonna say, a council person, if you have the names of applicants you want to send us off the line, we can look and tell you what point they're at in the process.
Okay. And then the second question is, I know one of the big issues we had, and I think one of the main reasons the council wanted to put a pause on things was due to businesses being approved right next to each other. So the first one we have on this agenda is Central Avenue again. And we know Central Avenue has a problem with cannabis businesses being too close. What have we done to fix that problem?
So
The joke.
the way that the ordinance now would read, we would remove hard and fast rules about distancing, which is what's included in Chapter 345, and Matt Ward from Planning can address that directly if you like. and instead replace it with a more holistic review of the location of the proposed business, so that in places where it's more appropriate for them to be near one another, the cannabis board can review that, and then the council can review that. And in places where it's not, we have more say in that process. In other words, rather than just asking them the distance from door to door between two businesses, we can actually look at whether or not it serves the location better to have them spaced further apart in certain parts of the city. And in that way, we think it addresses the needs of different wards and different areas in a more specific way, rather than a hard and fast rule that not everyone's going to like.
Wait, so,
When you say
yeah, so what are we doing? We are
what do you
amending
mean,
again?
like it serves areas better, like there's more weed smokers in one area than another, or how do you determine
No, I think
which areas are better served by more
Well,
cannabis businesses?
so the first thing is we don't exactly know what the marketplace is going to look like, right? So it may be that in certain parts of the city, having a couple of locations is actually better because they're more accessible for folks who are trying to come into the city for that purpose. Whereas in other parts of the city, that may not be a useful thing. And so we want to make sure that we don't have them, 3 on a street corner. But in order to implement that plan in a way that makes sense for different parts of the city, we thought it better to, rather than draw a simple line from one door to the next, that we actually include an explanation of your location and how it serves your area of the city in your application, so that the cannabis board can review that, and then the city council can take that into consideration as well.
In my opinion, that's too subjective, but, okay,
Yeah.
those are all my questions.
Tom, I have two. I'm
Question.
sorry. Go
Go
on.
ahead, Mayor.
All
Mayor,
right,
then you.
So this may be a little ahead of what we're talking today, but two questions and concerns I have. The first goes back to all the ones that were heard prior to this that were in the pipeline. So for example, there are 2 in my ward that are sharing a wall currently. And I believe I think one was heard by planning and the other one is supposed to be heard by the next. So I know that there's still the issue of the pen and the map. And then the second has to do with, now we are in a situation where some of these prior applications are coming up for the annual renewal. And that may be more a question to the Cannabis Control Board as to how they're going to be handling that, because we also, if we're putting caps in place, don't want to be holding licenses for 2 and 3 years while people are waiting to open or not open, as the case may be, because they just may just never open.
Right. I think to answer the second piece of that, I think I can provide a little bit of context. The state's regulatory body has a specific timeline by which you have to convert to an annual license, which allows you to open your doors and kind of run the shop. You can get extensions on that, but all of that information should be included in the renewal. So the board will, at the very least, know where they are in the stage of the process at the state level. So that if their conditional license there has expired, then they would be sort of out of luck at our level as well. They'd have to get back in line and start again.
Yeah. Tom, I have 2 questions. All right. Number 1, are you going to propose an ordinance to change the name of Jersey City to Pot City? And secondly, 535 Newark Avenue, right down the block from Dickinson High School, where 2,000 kids come out onto Newark Avenue already smoking pot. And you're allowing them to open up a pot store on Newark Avenue right next to Dickinson High School? It's a joke. And the people in the neighborhood do not want it. All the kids go to that pizza place and they go to the restaurants there. We're already having problems with them smoking pot in the street. Now you open up a pot place where they can just walk into the store and they're going to be getting pot. You weren't around in the 60s. You don't know the problems that were had. So the city better wake up and start smartening up.
Councilman Youssef.
I'm going to parlay what he said with, we sent over a few amendments to the amendment. I believe we sent it to Peter Baker. I'm not sure who else was on that email chain, but basically to set up some sort of enforcement mechanism for cannabis establishments. So if they are operating without a license and without ACO, that they would essentially have local support rescinded through a resolution by the city council, and that they wouldn't be able to operate, and that the health department would be able to issue a notice of violation if they are essentially found to be operating without local support and without a proper CO. Were you guys able, and there was other things like adding a 5-year residency and a 10% ownership clause if someone's from Jersey City is to get priority. And I think it cleaned up some language as well, but did you have a chance to?
I did review the draft that was circulated, Councilman. I'll try to address as much of it as I can and just remind me if I miss anything. So
Okay.
with respect to operating without a license or without a CO and health department violations and those sort of thing, those can be issued as is. There's nothing that makes a cannabis retailer immune from the other rules that apply to any other business operator. So from that perspective, I think we're covered in terms of what the other departments and other agencies that may need to regulate them can do. In terms of issuing a revocation of local support, the council could do that, and the cannabis board could do that at any time. The board making a recommendation and the council voting on it. The only thing we don't control in that process would be that the state actually issues the license. So if there was a bad actor who we wanted to address, I think the right course of action would be we bring it to the cannabis board, they issue a recommendation, the city council can adopt it, we give that to the state, and they can revoke the license. If they're in violation of anything else that means that they can't do business, then we can handle that internally. But once they have the cannabis license, we do have to kind of respect that process and take that to the regulatory body that's responsible for issuing that license. But in terms of the local support, that you do control, and the council can issue that sort of a resolution at any point.
Rescinding it. We could issue a resolution rescinding local support at any time.
Yeah, and as a reminder, every business that gets one of these licenses has to come back to the cannabis board and then to the council every year for a renewal. So if it looked like there was a particularly bad actor, they would have to justify why we should continue to support them on an annual basis.
I'll also remind the council very quickly that the unlicensed and unpermitted sale of cannabis in any setting is still potentially a very serious criminal offense. So there is a very heavy disincentive for these businesses against operating when they're not properly permitted.
And Peter, who's enforcing these laws? Nobody.
Sorry. We're just getting started. I also wanted to ask about the planning board aspect. With this amendment, the planning board would essentially not have to go through, you wouldn't have to go through a full review at the planning board, correct?
In some instances, that would be true, yes. Basically, what we tried to do is where the zoning and planning issues are not existent for the applicant, we want to save them that step in the process by allowing them to just present a zoning determination letter and some other data about their proposed location. That would save them from having to appear at the planning board, mostly because it really makes the planning board's agenda swell with applications that aren't really under a significant amount of review for them.
Any other questions? Next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
He's in the law department. We never see him.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The next item is item 10.76, Resolution 23-633, Neon Heights LLC, a resolution providing local support for Neon Heights LLC to operate a Class 5 cannabis retail located at 535 Newark Avenue. It was approved by the CCB on December the 12th, 2022, received planning board approval on May 9th, 2023. They have one MOU with Canada Mix. It's a standard business and diversely owned. The closest dispensary would be 1,056 feet on 638 Newark Avenue.
You're talking about 1076, right?
Yes.
This is right down from Dickinson High School, and this should not be allowed. And the people in the community are furious about this. They do not want this establishment to open up. Yeah, as I just told Mike, the kids are already smoking pot in the street. Now they're gonna, 2,000 are gonna walk out of Dickinson. It's a joke. It does not belong at 535 Newark Avenue. That's my neighborhood. The people around there are furious about this. And I'm telling you, people in Hudson Gardens are disgusted with this and they don't want it. This should not be allowed. I'm sorry.
Next item, item 10.77. Resolution 23-634 for Lifted Vision. A resolution providing local support to operate a Class 5 business cannabis retailer. The address is 481 Central Avenue. It was approved by the CCB on November 14th, 2022, and they received planning board approval on April the 25th, 2023. They have an MOU with New Jersey Reentry Corporation, and they will donate 1% of its annual net profits. This is a standard application, and the distance to the closest dispensary would be 492 feet.
Questions? Next.
Next item is item 10.78, Resolution 23-635, a resolution providing local support for Lady L Cannabis LLC to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis business located at 547 West Side Avenue. They received approval from the CCB on November the 14th, 2022, and planning board approval on May the 9th, 2023. This application is for a micro business. They do not have any MOUs on file, and the closest dispensary would be 171 feet, which would be 554 West Side Avenue.
Questions? Next.
Next item is item 10.79, Resolution 23636. A resolution providing local support for Cushmark Jersey City LLC to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis business located on 1521 Kennedy Boulevard, approved by the CCB on July 11th, 2022. They received planning board approval on February 21st, 2023. This is a standard application. They have one MOU on file with New Jersey Reentry Corporation to provide training and donate 1% of their net profits. They also have an MOU with NJCU for 2 years, $10,000 per year to fund their student emergency fund and host internships with for students over the age of 21. The distance of the closest dispensary would be 338 feet.
Questions? Next.
The next item is item 10.80, Resolution 23-637. A resolution providing local support for Kush Club NJ LLC to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis dispensary located at 560 Tunnelly Avenue. They received ECB approval on November the 14th, 2022. Planning board approval was received on May 9th, 2023. This is a standard application, and the closest dispensary would be 1,584 feet from the location, and they do not have any MOU on file.
Questions? That it? Go ahead.
Okay. The last item is item 10.81, Resolution 23-638, Bud Space LLC, a resolution providing local support to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis business located on 270 Newark Avenue. They received CCB approval on September the 12th, 2022, and they received planning board approval on May 9th, 2023. This is a standard application. They do not have any MOU on files, and the closest dispensary would be 1,056 feet. There are no distance issues.
Questions?
John, Peter, I'm requesting that 1076 be tabled or pulled until further discussion because it's too close to Dickinson High School and we have enough problems in the neighborhood with Dickinson High School. We don't need a pot joint right by the school. And I'm a little shocked at the planning board for approving this.
Can we have the owners reach out to you, Rich?
I don't care about the owners. I care about the kids in Dickinson High School, the 2,000 kids in Dickinson High School. We have them right now out in the street smoking pot. Nothing's being done. We're having problems in the neighborhood with Dickinson. And now you're going to open up a pot place where they can walk out instead of having lunch, they'll go buy pot.
That's
Enough
not
is
the way
enough.
it works.
Oh, don't say that. That's not.
Again, not a single cannabis establishment has opened.
You weren't around in the 60s. You don't know the
No, I
problems that happened in the 60s and the kids that went from pot to heroin to cocaine and died. Come on, please. I just want that table of Dickinson High School for now.
And so we have until Wednesday and we'll let them know on Wednesday, when it's tabled.
Can corporation counsel or business administrator, either one of you discuss like what actually happens at a cannabis establishment or the security protocol or anyone that's knowledgeable about that?
Security protocols are very strict for the reasons I mentioned a few minutes ago, that, there's heavy regulation. The state has heavy oversight of everything. And if you lose a permit, it is devastating, not just to that location, but it can be devastating to your entire if you have a statewide operation, it can be devastating there as well. I know there are very stringent ID checks, and I know the employees are very heavily trained and vetted. In fact, they're compensated quite well additionally. So, I mean, it's anecdotal evidence, but I have very little personal experience or knowledge of any licensed cannabis retailer in New Jersey or elsewhere having a major problem with any kind of distribution to minors or anybody who's not permitted to purchase.
Peter, come on.
And you just said also on the record that if there are any bad actors or anyone that's not following any rules, we could put a resolution rescinding local support here at this council.
That is correct, yes.
Peter, the people in the neighborhood do not want it, Peter. And it's like buying booze. The kid's 16 years old, send you into the store to buy them a bottle of liquor and come out and give it to them. They'll have people going in to get them the pot. We don't need a pot store next to Dickinson High School where 2,000 kids come out into the neighborhood every day.
Listen,
How far is it from
listen,
Dickinson?
if you guys can just follow up with him, until Wednesday so that we could just, get this going. Just follow up with him and, see what the councilman wants. He's raising some points. Everybody has good points here, but he's raising a point with 2,000 kids, so we need to address that. Okay.
Find out how far away.
Are you done? Next. Ms. Patel, Barker Patel, the master of the bike lanes.
President Pro Tem, members of the council, we have 2 ordinances and 10 resolutions for the Department of Infrastructure. The first ordinance will be presented by the Director of Transportation, Director Manzella.
Morning, Council President Pro Tem, members of the council. The item that I'm presenting is agenda item number 3.6. It's ordinance 23-083. And this is an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a 6-month lease agreement with the NJSDA at 70 Egie Avenue for the purposes of temporary parking for the Via Jersey City service. The city has provided the Via Jersey City service fleet a parking lot on Caven Point Avenue. That lot is in the process of starting construction for redevelopment. We had to identify a new location for parking for the Via fleet, and this was the option that was identified. It's at a $1 lease for 6 months.
That's really nice, Mike. You're providing parking for VIA. Why don't you come up into the Journal Square area and get us some parking up there? Now they want to put up a building and take away the last parking lot in the area. And people are quite upset. People in Ward C are tired of what's going on. Come on up into our neighborhood and get us some parking, Mike. All
Ready to
right?
do that, Councilman. Thanks.
Next ordinance is agenda number 3.7, ordinance 23084. This is to establish right turn on red restrictions at the intersection of Grant and Mercedes at all times, and to extend the right turn on red restrictions at Columbus and Brunswick Street from school days and school times through all times. 2 pedestrians were struck and seriously injured in the crosswalks at these 2 intersections as a result of a driver turning right on red. The Vision Zero action plan has right turn on red restrictions as a strategy to improve safety at signalized intersections. And for that reason, we are recommending that right turn on red is restricted at these 2 intersections.
Questions? Next.
The next item is agenda number 10.53, resolution 23-610. This is a resolution rejecting bids received by the city of Jersey City on August 1st, 2023 for the contract known as Reservoir Number 3. The project specifically is the rehabilitation of the historic structures at the reservoir. The reason we're recommending rejection of bids is that all 3 bids that were received came in significantly over budget that we had allocated for the project.
I think Youssef will go along with me on this. People in Ward C and Ward D, this has been going on for 3 years. They're tired of it. They want the reservoir opened, and it's a shame.
It's true.
I mean, am I right, Youssef?
He's not lying. He's telling the truth.
I'm tired of, like Ward C and Ward D are getting clobbered. And I'm opening my mouth now. I'm tired of everything that's going on, Barker. And I called, what's his name that was handling the project there. They have meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and nothing's happening. And the people want it opened.
Why were the bids rejected? Can you clarify?
The bids came in several millions of dollars over budget from the amount that we had allocated for the project.
And what are the next phases for this project?
We will be rebidding the historic structures.
Okay.
The project for building a bridge at the Jefferson Avenue entrance where there's currently a breach and there's an ADA accessibility issue is currently out to bid right now. We are expecting responses back in the next 2 weeks. And if that project comes in within budget, we'll be able to award it, move forward with the construction of the bridge, and then the entire path of the reservoir can be opened up for public access. We cannot open it up right now because of the breach on the Jefferson Avenue entrance, which leaves people exposed to the water that's at the lower level of the reservoir. And because people who have mobility challenges aren't able to traverse the entire loop safely. So
Okay.
this project will be rebid, and hopefully we will get bids back that are lower in price.
It's taken 3 years to build a 25-foot bridge. Come on, it's got to be opened. Vernon, I call Vernon constantly, and Youssef, you have to agree with me. We're getting our backs broken because people in Ward C and Ward D are tired of everything that's going on.
It's not the director's fault, but
I know it's not your fault, Barker. I'm not blaming you, okay?
Explain the
But,
reason it's taken so
3
long.
years, 3 years.
The
is
reason
fine.
is that the bridge, the construction of the bridge and the design of the bridge has to go through approvals from the state, which isn't normally required of other projects. The reason being that it would be a historic element of the reservoir. So the New Jersey DEP and the State Historic Preservation Office have to sign off on the city's design of the bridge, the city's plans for construction of the bridge for about a year and 2 months. the State Historic Preservation Office did not have a, ability to hear our application for various reasons. They didn't have a quorum, they didn't have enough information, they needed us to submit new documents. We did all of that and we finally got approval just a few months ago. And ever since then, we've put the project out to bid. It takes a certain amount of days for the project to be publicly bid. If it comes back over budget, we have to bid it out again. So while we understand the frustration, we would like to get the project completed as well. These are the reasons that it hasn't been so far.
Any other questions? Next.
Building and place.
The next one is agenda item 10.54, resolution 23-611. This is also a resolution rejecting the sole bid that was received by the city of Jersey City on July 20th, 2023 for a project known as the new police training facility. And the project specifically was for HVAC work that needs to happen at the police training facility. The reason for the rejection is, again, that the bid came in over $1 million above budget from what was allocated for the project. And the plan is to, identify other vendors who can perform the work or rebid the project.
Came over $1 million, more than what you guys.
More than $1 million over budget.
It was only one bid that came in?
Yes.
Any other questions? Next.
Okay, the next 7 resolutions are through the Division of Traffic and the Division of Engineering, which Director Wong will present.
Agenda number 10.61, resolution 23-618. This is a resolution authorizing the second and final option to renew a contract with Murray Paving and Concrete. This is to construct all the speed humps throughout the city.
Can we get a list of all the streets that are going to be paved, et cetera?
Councilman, we shared a series of maps, construction maps at the beginning of this year, which we will share again with everyone, which outlines all of the streets to be paved, all of the speed humps to be installed, and the locations for all of that work to the entire council. We will definitely share that again. If there's specific information you'd like about the paving, let us know and we can share.
Yeah, well, Barker, I see downtown getting the streets lined, all the work being done downtown. People up in Ward C and Ward D want some more attention up in Ward C and Ward D. I'm sure A and B would like the same,
We need a little TLC
So
up
the
here.
first round of paving all happened in Ward A, as the councilwoman knows. We just advanced a few projects in Ward F for paving, as the councilman knows. So we're working our way through the list. We will share the locations with you. If you'd like us to add locations, just let us know. We'll see what we can fit in with the funding that we have. This contract, though, is specifically for speed humps. I should just clarify.
The majority of the speed humps that were constructed in this last quarter were in the Heights.
And do you have a specific measurement for the speed humps?
Sorry?
You have a specific measurement for the speed humps?
Yes.
Any other ones? You have any more resolutions?
Yes. 6 more. So the next one is 10.62, 23-619. This is a resolution authorizing the award of contract to statewide striping for the maintenance of striping throughout the city. We put out the bid. Statewide was the lowest and responsible bidder out of 2 bidders.
So this is all the striping with the bike lanes and all that stuff.
Yes.
Gives me a little bit of chest pain, but question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys go out to the community when you guys are going to just like do one lane street, like you take over one lane and without letting the community know? Is that like a normal thing to do, or do you guys advise the community?
We absolutely advise the community and we work with the council person on this.
Oh,
So
that's not so. I never knew about Bergen Avenue, never knew about a lot of these changes. And I'll tell you something right now. stay away from Baldwin Avenue and stay away from Summit Avenue.
I'll respectfully disagree. I know that traffic and engineering has been very proactive in meeting with residents in my ward.
Well, I'll just talk to Councilman Solomon then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next one is 10.63, Resolution 23-620. This is a resolution to establish loading zones at various locations on Central Avenue. The loading zones will not take up existing parking spaces. There are existing hatched out areas on Central Avenue, and we are just formalizing the loading zones on that stretch.
Thank you for your hard work on this. I really appreciate it, and the business owners appreciate it as well. Thank you very much.
Welcome. No questions?
Any other questions? Good, go ahead.
Okay, next one is 10.64, Resolution 23-621. This is a resolution to designate loading zones on Columbus Drive. These are existing loading zones that are striped out but are not legislated. And then there are 2 loading zones that are legislated, but we are adjusting the times to be established on Monday through Sunday, 8 to 8 p.m.
Questions? Go ahead.
Next one is 10.65, Resolution 23-622. This is to establish 2 loading zones on JFK Boulevard between Tonelli and Bergen Avenue. This was requested by businesses and by the county.
Questions? Go ahead.
2 more. The next one is 10.66, Resolution 23-623. This is to establish a loading zone on Baldwin Avenue between Washburn and Route 139.
All right, before you do this one, the people on Washburn Street, before they put those buildings up, they should have provided additional places for loading zones. I don't know where you're going to put it on Baldwin Avenue, because Baldwin Avenue is a highly trafficked area, and right now we're having problems with these trucks. They come to the buildings making delivery, and people are driving on the wrong side of the street. So I want Paul Russo, I want him to come up, meet me and a few of the residents and show us where this is going to be. This is another issue in the neighborhood that's irritating people. Okay, has nothing to do with you.
Sure. I think our office already sent a striping plan to your office, which shows where the loading zone will be located. It'll be on the west side of the street.
I know where it is, but I want Paul Russo to come up like he has before, and I want to get Laura and a few other people from the neighborhood that are driving me crazy about what's going on Baldwin Avenue with these 2 new buildings, which have no loading zone area. They come, they park their trailers, block traffic. People have to drive on the other side of the street. We need the loading zone, but I want to know, we have to know how you're going to do it without interfering with traffic.
Sure, I'll relay that information.
All right. I'll get a hold of Paul Russo.
Next.
Okay, last one, 10.67, 23-624. This is a resolution authorizing the renewal of a contract with Smith-Sondy Asphalt Construction for the continuation of asphalt paving throughout the city.
Questions?
Can we get a list of the streets?
Questions?
Director.
Okay, thank you.
Agenda item 10.89, resolution 23-646. This is another resolution rejecting bids received by the city of Jersey City on August 8th, 2023 for the project known as 16th Street Park, which we've been working with Councilmember Solomon and Councilmember Saleh on. Again, the reason for recommending the rejection is that the bids came in over budget.
Questions? Great, thank you.
I'm just proud of.
Thank you, Director.
I'm sorry?
Just proud of how you spending the money over there.
It's for the people.
Honestly, we're probably gonna see a lot more of this for all of our contracts. The costs in the industry are just doubling without any reason, so there probably will be a lot of projects that are affected for this reason, a lot of capital projects.
When you reject the bids, after you reject them, what is it, twice? Are you able, do they sit down and negotiate, or they say that hey, this is my price, and if you can't pay me, then, kick rocks? Is that what they're saying, or?
Exactly. So this is now the second rejection for 16th Street Park. So once, if this is approved by council, the city would have the ability to negotiate. We wouldn't be able to make material changes to the specs that were released to bidders up until now, but we would have ability to negotiate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Ward.
Morning, I'm here on resolution, agenda item 10.29, resolution 23-586. We received this request from Councilman Solomon's office. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing the planning board to conduct preliminary investigation, the conditions of scatter site study area 5 for possible designation as an area in need of redevelopment with the power of condonation pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. In the third paragraph down, there are 9 properties listed both by block and lot and address. Is brought to my attention from Councilman Solomon's office that another address should be added to this list. I will try to update the resolution and map attached prior to Wednesday. The address to be added is 392 First Street with a block 11006, lot 28. Are there any questions?
Matt, when you get, when Councilman Solomon sends you stuff within that area, can you forward it to me as well?
The original request?
Right.
Okay.
Questions?
So this is, something like the scattered sites thingy they did, what's that on, in Ward F, on, in that Virginia and Iggy area? Because my issue with the scattered sites is, it's designated to specific areas, specific establishment versus specific areas. Like, what goes into the mind of the planning or the zoning board when they're determining if it fits within the community?
So there is criteria laid out in the local redevelopment and housing law that a study would need to pinpoint to determine whether or not these properties or this area is to be designated as an area in need of redevelopment or meets the criteria as an area in need of redevelopment or rehabilitation. Does that answer your question, Councilman?
I guess a better question, in your assessment, is it better to do spot realignments, locations, specific locations versus specific areas?
So the history of the scatter site redevelopment plan was that it was once called the vacant buildings redevelopment plan. So at the time when it first was designated and adopted as a redevelopment plan, that was what the main goal and focus was. And the goal and focus and objectives of that redevelopment plan, I would say, still remain the same. But I have not looked at any of these properties yet.
Like some places, like it goes in, like on MLK, it fits in with the aesthetic. But then when you go around a corner, you see single family, big buildings, single family, like it doesn't go. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out, like.
Without more information, my knowledge of the scatter site redevelopment plan is that it affords the city the power of eminent domain. But in many cases, it's just an overlay and allows for whatever zoning is in place but prior to the time of designation is the zoning that applies to that box. So if it's in R1 zone, then it's R1 zoning. If it's a neighborhood commercial zone, then it's neighborhood commercial zoning, so on and so forth.
And what's the additional address? That's not, it's another one that's not on here? Another.
Yes, the address that was brought to my attention prior to this caucus meeting this morning is 392 First Street.
So it's not on this one either, right? Did you? Who gave it? It's
Do you want?
392 First Street.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, apologies. Councilman Gilmore, it is on the paper that we gave you with the pictures. It's 392 First Street.
That was the handout that I gave to every council member. Thank you.
I was unaware that was another one, but I can try to add that as an attachment as well.
Matt, hold on, Matt, why you up here, Matt? Because I thought you were, what is, what's the city's position on, planning's position on, 3.1, vacation of the, public street? Do you guys meet about that?
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
What's the,
I can't hear you if you're steering away from the mic.
it's going off, okay. All right, excuse me. What's planning, position on 3.1 as it relates to the vacation of, public street? I remember last time Tanya was here, did you guys have any further dialogue with regards to this? Because I know it was on, then it got pulled, and now it's on again.
This has not been, I have not really been tied into this issue. I believe that the redevelopment plan, Greenville redevelopment plan, does address the possibility of this vacation, and it has bulk standards that would apply should it move forward. And if it doesn't move forward, there's also bulk standards in the absence of the vacation. So I think that we would say we're
So
neutral.
you guys haven't met and talked with them about this?
Met with who and talked about this with who?
Who's proposed,
I believe there might be
Yeah,
someone
we have
here to
counsel
speak
here.
on this matter. I was not coming to
Right.
this meeting to
We have
talk
counsel, Chuck's here.
ordinance.
all right.
Well, Matt, we'll just let the council just, you want to address that, BA, or do you want to let just council address it? Okay,
Come up, Chuck.
Chuck, just to address what he's talking about.
Yes, for the record, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley. Yeah, we have had discussions about this with the planning department as part of the proposed amendments to the redevelopment plan that was eventually passed. So we've presented a plan for their consideration. So they have been in the loop on this. And I believe the first time around, before this was withdrawn, there was I believe Ms. Marione provided an email in support of it or no objection to it. I don't want to speak for her, but that's my recollection. I don't think it would have come this far to be presented to the council without that.
Okay.
So, John, what if anything changed from before to now, from the time, it was withdrawn or pulled?
I believe that the redevelopment plan had to be adopted first, and I think we had the vacation ordinance on prior to the redevelopment plan being adopted. So that's why we had to withdraw the vacation ordinance in order to make sure the redevelopment plan was adopted first.
If I could interject, I believe Mr. Gallagher is correct. I think the council thought we were putting the cart before the horse. Why don't we present the redevelopment plan to the council and to the planning board? And once that's adopted, then return here for consideration.
That's correct. This had come before us before the amendments were made to Green Villa. We asked to have it tabled until that time. The amendments were sent back to council. The council approved them. There have been a number of community meetings regarding this project also. And so that's why this is back up again now.
Okay, thank you. Senator McLaughlin?
Oh, good morning. I am before you on a bunch of different items. Number one is the second reading of ordinance 4.3, which is an ordinance amending chapter 239 to address farmers markets and certain vendors connected with those farmers markets parking on site. We did discuss that, I think, two caucus meetings ago. If there's any questions on that.
Questions? Okay, next.
All right, our next resolution item numbers. Big one today, hold on.
19, 20, 21.
Yes, sir. Item 10.19 is first, a resolution authorizing the Department of Recreation and Youth Development to accept a donation from an entity called Play Sports Communities. Play Sports Community is, if you will, like a Zog Sports, but not called Zog Sports. And they run programs and use our fields here in Jersey City. And as a thank you and as a partnership move, they offered to purchase brand new soccer goals to donate to the city to have on site at Berry Lane. And the total combined costs of that donation, of course, I don't have it in front of me, $6,540.
Questions? Go ahead.
Next is Resolution 10.20, which is a resolution authorizing the Department of Recreation and Youth Development to apply for and accept the ROI, the Recreational Opportunities for Individuals with Disabilities grant, which is run through the state. We are asking for $20,000 in funding from the state, which does require a $4,000 match on the city side. And those monies will continue to allow us to provide engaging opportunities and accessible opportunities for youth with special needs.
Questions? Next.
Item number 10.21, which is a resolution authorizing the approval of a contract with Book-A-Maid, which is a cleaning company that is currently one of two companies that we are utilizing through the Department of Recreation and Youth Development to keep the field houses cleaned and stocked. I will be before you at the next meeting on the other entity who we are also working with for that important task across the city.
Questions?
Yes, Lucinda, why do we need to outsource a contract for someone to clean a bathroom?
Well, Councilman, for let's say there's 13 weeks of the year that there's no field houses, right? Because they're closed, they're winterized. But during the other 39 weeks of the year, there are 9 additional buildings, right, that exist that need to be stocked with toilet paper, need to be cleaned. And there is no staff for that. It is, you may remember from your time with recreation, it's been like the age-old question, kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg, like whose responsibility is maintaining the field houses? And it was nobody's responsibility before. It was not Buildings and Streets responsibility. It was not Recreation's responsibility, but it was not the baseball league's responsibilities. But what we have are field houses that exist for 39 weeks of the year that the public expects to be able to use and expects them to be in working and presentable condition. So we, from a staffing perspective, can either have parks maintenance clean 72 park properties throughout the course of a day, or we could instead have parks maintenance focus on the 9 sites that have field houses, and they wouldn't have any time to visit any of the other parks if we were responsible for that.
I mean, I recall when I was in recreation, I managed Berry Lane. We cleaned Berry Lane. We cleaned the bathrooms. It was our responsibility because we was there. Same situation with the armory. We cleaned it. The reason why I'm saying is because I'm looking at recreation as an entity that's it's like dwindling with regard to funding, right? So for me, I would much rather see us take care of this in-house, thinking it would be cheaper and using more funds to have more activities for more kids.
Let me jump into that. So as a person who's been involved with recreation for 30+ years, especially in a baseball program, you need this because you're putting this to the parents of these kids that pay to play at this sport, and you just don't have the resources. Parents are not going to do it because you have to get down
Oh,
to the
not
nitty
the
gritty.
parents, I'm saying it's.
You just can't. You have to actually have a staff member positioned in that park. Each park for each game, you have to. There's just no way around it. And the city is not going to be able to do that.
Councilman, first of all, I appreciate where you're coming from, and I hear both of you. Councilman Gilmore, I think it's important to say that this is a function that, again, was sort of unhoused before, and it's been a consistent struggle getting supplies to clean the bathrooms because our department doesn't clean things. So when we ask for cleaning supplies from other areas of the city, they say, why would we be giving you cleaning supplies? We budget for that. So for the Armory specifically, that's been a whole other argument back and forth, right? From a union perspective, we don't have any staff in recreation, the division of recreation that should be cleaning bathrooms because we don't have the proper title civil service wise, right? But again, from the buildings and streets perspective, there's certain times they budget cleaning supplies. There's sometimes that they don't. So the Armory, the past two winters, Councilman, has been a struggle, to put it nicely, with regards to cleaning supplies and, paper towels and toilet paper when we do use the Armory. So what this is a way to solve this issue so that it's actually addressed from a health perspective, from a cleanliness perspective, from a services perspective, and then we are able to still keep clean the parks, keep running programs and all those things. So these are tasks that we were asking people to go above and beyond. No one wanted to do it. We had no right to require people to do it. Cost of supplies are growing, and this is a way for us to control that through use of a vendor. So I appreciate, Councilman, what you are asking, and I can tell you that while I'm here as director, we will not be losing programming opportunities in order to keep bathrooms clean. We will be doing both because it is necessary for the community, and we are not going to skimp on programming so that we can also make sure the bathrooms are clean.
Next.
Right. Item next would be item 10.22. This is a resolution allowing the Department of Recreation and Youth Development to accept funding that Assemblywoman Angela McKnight has asked the state through the Joint Budget Oversight Committee, has asked the state to allocate $2 million, $1 million towards Country Village Park and $1 million towards Pershing to be used towards repairs, improvements, and upgrades at both of those sites. So, Councilman, when the Assemblywoman approached the administration and said, I can ask for these monies, how can they be useful? The Pershing Field rink specifically is what came to mind. And so once these monies are officially available and we can accept them, we will be putting them towards the work that is needed at the rink.
So you need $5 billion to fix the rink, correct?
A minimum amount should be $5 million for that project, yes, Councilman, because it's equipment, it's the roof. There's a lot of things that are necessary there. So that will be an ongoing conversation as well.
Oh, we probably won't be having anything up there this winter.
We had always known that this winter would be unlikely to have ice because we need to pay for it and fund it, and then of course get the items on site and put in place. So we have already had that very hard conversation with the hockey entities that have historically relied upon Pershing Rink. So yes, that is true, but what we also need to do, Councilman, is figure out a way that is responsible to come up with the money for the asset of the rink because it is important. It's not going anywhere while I am here, but we need to figure out the way to properly fund it. And as Director Patel was up here in front of you fine council members, you know that money is tight, money is hard to come by, and that challenge from my perspective will not mean that we cannot have recreational opportunities. So we are doing everything that we can in our power, Councilman, to get us there on the rink in a way that makes sense. So then my only other item is item 10.23, which is a resolution that addresses the Paulus Hook park, the park down by PS 16, which Councilman Gilmore, I know you were involved in a bunch of phone calls on that way back when, but ultimately the community members came to an agreement with regards to a limited exclusive use of the playground at Paulus Hook for the PS 16 community, and has been working for a year the way it was originally drawn up, and the way it is presented to you members of the council today is for a 1-year agreement that will then allow everyone to reassess and make sure it makes sense. But at this juncture, what is being asked there is a renewal of the restriction that between 8 and 8:45, 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., and 2:15 to 3 p.m. on school days, that playground is exclusive for the use of the students at PS 16.
Questions? Good, thank you. Tycho Hill?
Good morning, council. I have 7 resolutions today.
Did I pronounce your name right?
No, but it's
Oh.
to show.
I jacked it up. I'm sorry. Won't happen again.
No problem. The first one is item number 10.30, 23-587. And this resolution is to execute the discharge of mortgage for 22 Virginia Avenue, Jersey City. The owner of the 22 Virginia Ave borrowed $5,227 to repair their home for the homeowners repair program. They have met their affordability period of 5 years and is ready to discharge. Next item is 10.36, Resolution 23-593. Resolution is to authorizing the discharge of mortgage. The owner of 421 Second Street borrowed $6,000 to repair their home for the homeowners repair program. They have met their affordable period of 5 years and is ready to discharge.
Questions? Next.
Next item is 10.38, 23-595. The resolution of Municipal Council awarding the remaining community services block grant for the 22 years for various subrecipient projects.
Questions? Next.
Next, item number 10.39, resolution 23-596. This is a resolution authorizing grant for subrecipient agreements for Hudson County Court appointed special projects, that's Hudson CASA, Jersey City Connections, Hudson Pride Connections, Scores Reentry for the CDBG CARES Act funding.
Questions? Next.
Next item is 10.40, 23-597. Resolution for Jersey City awarding an increase of funding for senior nutrition program of the remaining funds of the CSBG year 22 program. We're receiving an additional amount of $9,741, which we are increasing that to the Jersey City Health and Human Services Senior Nutrition Program.
Questions? Next.
Agenda item 10.41, 23-598. This resolution is approving the Jersey City's 2023 annual action, authorizing submission of the application that we're submitting through HUD. And this includes our potential projects for the year 2023.
Questions? Next.
The other one. What about the other mortgage?
There was 2. I did 2 mortgages. I only did 2.
Oh, someone's doing the rest of them? It's like 7 of them.
Yes, he's behind me. He's doing the other.
Also, with regards to these, is these programs still available for residents to get these?
So that is still a waiting list. What happened, we froze the waiting list because we have to go back, but it will be reopening. We don't have a specific date. It's to be determined.
Yes. Can you keep me notified?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. The next agenda item is 10.42, 23-599, and that's to authorize subrecipient contracts to the waterfront project administrating funds through our emergency solutions grant.
Questions? Next.
That is it.
Director Hill, thank you. I won't butcher your name.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Director Barron, I'm gonna say the last names because I'll be
Yeah.
Morning, Council. Item number 10.43, Resolution 23-600, authorizing the submission of an application to the New Jersey Enterprise Zone Authority for Enterprise Zone Assistance Funds for Jersey City UEZ admin budget fiscal 24. This is for JCEDC to administer the UEZ program for fiscal year 24, and it's amount not to exceed $784,787.
Questions? That's it.
What was the agenda number again? I'm sorry. The agenda number?
I'm sorry?
The agenda number?
Oh, sure. 10.43.
Thank you.
So, question, so once this is submitted, what do you all anticipate? I know you're bound by what the state will be able to do, but what is the anticipation for getting this approved so we can start getting these UEZ dollars into our commercial corridors?
Yes, it has actually been a very slow process with the state. The last projects we submitted back in March, we're actually still waiting for. It looks like it's like what was a 2-month process is moving to like a 6-month process. So we're expecting this one, maybe by the end of the year, it'll be approved. And actually for the other ones that you approved, well, from a call we had last week, they're finally recommending approval for September, possibly October.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Yoon? Peter June? Yeah, how you say your last name?
John. Close enough.
Director Peter.
How you doing?
Sorry about that.
No worries. Happy Monday, Council. I'm here with 6 resolutions, all discharges. The first one will be item number 10.31, 23-588. This is to authorize the discharge of a mortgage affecting 118 Summit Ave, Jersey City, which received home funds in the amount of $1,116,461 for Garden State Episcopal Community Development. And they were not able to carry out the project, so we're requesting for the funds back and for the mortgage to be discharged.
Questions?
Wait, so this, you're requesting the money back, so this is not a discharge.
So they signed a mortgage and a note for the property to carry out a project, but they only spent a fractional amount of it, which we are requesting back through their closing of the property.
Other questions? Next.
Same property, item number 10.32, 23-589. And this is to authorize a discharge of a mortgage for 118 Summit Avenue, Jersey City. And this is for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the amount of $400,000. They only spent a fractional amount, so we are asking back for $195,137.53.
Questions? Next.
Next item, 10.33, 23-590. And this is to authorize the discharge of a mortgage affecting 124-126 Maple Street, Jersey City. The borrower received $58,000 under the home program, and the borrower intends to sell the property, so we are going to get back $55,484.19.
Questions? Next.
Item number 10.34, 23-591. And this is to authorize the discharge of a mortgage affecting 378-380 Pacific Avenue. The borrower received $52,000 under the home program, and they're intending to sell the property. So, hold on, sorry. And we are getting back 101,685.15 cents.
Questions? Next.
Item number 10.35, 23-592. This is to authorize the discharge of a mortgage for 409-411 Pacific Avenue. They received $58,000 under the home program, and we will be receiving back $55,484.19.
Questions? Next.
Item number 10.37, 23-594. This is to authorize the discharge of a mortgage and the deed restrictions for 1209 Summit Avenue 402. This one was a emerging market unit, and they received $83,333.33. And upon their sale, we will be receiving the same amount, $83,577.74. Or sorry, different amount, $83,577.74.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Nicole Dupree.
Director Birthday. Good morning, Council. I'm here to present two resolutions. Items number 10.26, resolution number 23-583. This one is to renew a contract with MetLife Insurance Company. We are exercising the first of two options for non-management life insurance for all active employees, term being from July 1st, 23 through June 30th, 24.
Questions? Next.
The second being item number 10.27, resolution number 23-584. This is a resolution amending an agreement with Crumdale Partners to correct the language to reflect the total contract amount.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Director Gansler.
Good morning, council members. Sean, you're going to introduce the item?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm here to consider the budget for introduction and adoption. Nothing has changed from the last meeting to this meeting.
Questions? 10.1.
Budget, Rich. Hey, John, do you anticipate, we'll get a copy of that breakdown before Wednesday?
Somebody work on it throughout the day and tomorrow.
Are we able to reduce overtime spending in this city, or are we just gonna let it be a runaway train forever?
Runaway train.
I'm
So-
asking a serious question.
I mean, Councilman, the budget is again, a planning policy document that introduces the trends and the conditions of the city.
What are we doing about it for next year? What are we doing? You just heard that they can't fund the ice rink. There's so many things in our area that are not getting funded. And I'm just gonna ask you, what are we doing about the low hanging fruit that we can accomplish together to reduce overtime spending?
So I think in the budget action plan that we prepared in finance at this point of the budget adoption and where we're at, it's about monitoring and evaluation. We are working in finance to monitor these things and we'll work closely with the council. The council president has her budget quarterly meetings that we're going to be having in September so that you guys get the information in real time. You know, the Department of Finance has put together an entire software financial management package. It's dated 30 years old. I can give you guys spreadsheets. I can give you things, but ultimately it is about working collective conversations on giving you real-time data. The request that you submitted was already surpassed the date.
give you the date and the timelines of when we submitted this budget. We started in December. We had our quarterly meetings in the first quarter of the year. May 10th, we introduced the budget, and we're now in August. At this point, I understand your frustration, but ultimately it has to be a working conversation until we update and modernize our systems. All the plans that we've put together in working conversations. I had a meeting with Councilman Gilmore on Friday. Did we not go into detail about answering your questions?
Yes, I mean, you went into details, but I mean, the fact it still remains is, the reality is we don't have a control on overtime, namely the public safety, but I know, understand that's not necessarily you and what you do, but at some point, we have to address that, because they're not coming up to you guys on the streets asking continuously why their tax going up, why this has happened, why does the councilman just said we don't have money to fix it. They don't come to you guys for that. Our emails are blowing up, our phones are blowing up, and it becomes extremely frustrating for us as council to be able to justify that. At some point, we have to look and say, something has, this is done nowhere else. This is done nowhere else. The overtime expenditures and the disbursement of overtime is done. This, the only place you can do that is in Jersey City or with municipal government. In the private sector, you can't do that.
We spoke about this during the budget hearings.
Mhm.
The concerns were brought up about the overtime. At what point in the process can you tell us, do we have to signal to the administration, the departments
Again,
because it's about a conversation, but it's not a conversation if one side isn't hearing the other. And we said it during the budget hearings. Do we have to say it earlier? If so, I'm saying it right now. I'm not against public safety. I want more officers in my area, not one dime, dollar, penny, whatever it was spent on overtime in the north. Most of our police are sent to other parts of the city. And it's not like we don't have crime. We have crime. We've had homicides there.
I understand
Okay.
that, but the role of the Department of Finance is to budget for these things. And legally, if someone works overtime, we have to pay for them. I defer to council and the business administrator about the management and the framework, but Department of Finance has to prepare a balanced budget in order for they to have these concessions to reduce overtime or not to have overtime reduced. I understand your concern, but you have the numbers and the projections. If someone is paid and works and it's overtime, we have to fund it. And that's the role of myself, Kyle, and everyone else to support those frameworks.
I understand that. It's not our job to run the departments. We leave that up to the department heads, but it's our job as the council to tell you what we think is a fair amount of money for them to run their department.
And understand
I don't think it's
legally-
fair that they're
legally,
over
we have to
$13.5
put in the
million
money
over.
to cover overtime for.
I also want, I just want to interject as well. So while the finance department has to deal with the overall budget with that specific department, what we need to do is just call it how it is. You have the Director Shea and Director Tawana Moody, get them on a meeting and talk to them and tell them to give you a line item of what is going on. I don't think that's been done. But let them know, talk to them and say, hey, we want to sit down with you officially, whether it's a closed session meeting, whether it's an open session meeting, and say, give me a breakdown of every single manpower you have in your department and show me where this overtime is going. If we're not going to do that, we just have to make sure that we already asked the finance director, give us a breakdown of what we need. She gave us the breakdown, and we still have a question on a department where the director is not being asked the questions.
Danny, we need people running the police department that know about policing. I'd like to read something, Carmen. Last year, I said if there weren't changes, I wouldn't be voting for the budget this year. I appreciate that the administration took note of the council demands and have begun moving in the right direction. I still think it's ridiculous that we couldn't keep the tax levy neutral this year or reduce it, especially when we are getting proposals to borrow more money for numerous projects in the city, most of which I've opposed. And I mean the 30 million and 30 million to two projects. However, I appreciate that the city took measures to reduce spending by as much as 15% in each department. They can't cut spending in the police department, though. I also appreciate that the BA and administration was able to cut almost $25 million out of the budget, and that the administration heard my demands and began reverse tax appeals to begin ensuring that developers were paying their fair share, which they're not. While I'm disappointed that more wasn't done, I understand the complex financial situations facing our city and all cities in this area. I've been informed the city is still dealing with losses in revenue. The latent effects of COVID, increased inflation, commercial vacancies, rise in health insurance costs, and much more. That being said, I do not want to see services cut to my constituents if there were further reductions. I've had more than 5 shootings in my ward this year, some just recently, and people and I are fed up. I've asked for a greater police presence to help with the shootings and other crimes we've been experiencing, and nothing has been done. I also want to ensure we keep addressing the quality of life issues that are affecting my area and other areas of this city. I've also asked for numerous street safety measures to be constructed in my area to deal with issues that the community and I have advocated for and which have been exacerbated by all this construction. Lastly, with all this construction we've had, safety issues, a traffic issue that I do not want to see get worsened by further cuts. For these reasons, I am voting yes on the budget. However, I'm holding the administration to even more spending cuts next year. I also hope my fellow council members will back me in ensuring that we do not keep borrowing and spending in this city. If we don't continue this trend to reduce spending and decrease the amount we are asking our residents to pay, then this may be the last year I am able to vote this way. We have to do something. Things have to change, and we can't keep on borrowing. We can't cut the $12 million on the police budget is because of the inefficiency, the way the police department's being run. And as I said, we've had 5 shootings in my area and nothing has been done.
And I know you guys have made huge, tremendous strides towards fixing the budget hole. I understand that. I respect the work that you put in. 3 years ago, when I came on the council, the overtime was 6.5 to 7 million, and now it's at 13.5 million. Okay, and that is the part that concerns me because we could use that in our ward. I want police in my district. I want our share of the services that the residents have been asking for, that I get text messages about. Pershing Field, Reservoir, there's problems all over the place with quality of life. Like we just want to serve our residents and tell them, hey, like people don't mind paying taxes. They just want to know they're getting something back. And I know it's a problem, but we have to have an open and honest discussion about it where we're actually going to set parameters and guardrails, because I can tell you right now, I don't want to be here again next year when we're discussing overtime being 15, 16 million. That's my take. Like, I want us to find a solution.
And one of the things that I encourage our council members to do is, even meet, 2 by 2s and, listen to the police unions. Like Joe Castellini has a lot of good plans, and, at least let them look at the situation through their lenses and a different angle to the budget. I think they have great solutions. And if we meet with them, we can actually tell, because we can't get involved into the day-to-day activity of a department, but we could at least let the director know, listen, we met with the unions. They look like they have a pretty good angle on this. It might fit, but we don't. And here we are. We're like Director Gandola has done what we've asked her to do, and it's break it down, dissect it to the best of her ability. So we need to make sure that we hold the directors accountable for this, and we can just chat with him and say, hey, let's come to the table so that next year there's a certain responsibility and there's a certain highlighted area to this department. I'm sure, and I'm convinced we can get to that. But until we do that, it is not the fault of this director that's providing you a dissected budget like you asked her to.
I'm not saying it's your fault. You came on to help the city and you got thrown headfirst into the deep end. I recognize that. And we all voted for you because we're confident in your abilities. And I'm talking about for the next year, okay, we need to make sure we are controlling the overtime.
If I can interject.
Absolutely.
Understand that the budget action plan that we put together identifies this year and it has a proposed 5-year outlook. That's never been done before in regards to what we had to do. The state required us to do a plan. Going into 2024 and getting through this hurdle, we will work with the council in identifying the plans of spending. Ultimately, where we're at this point is we do not adopt this budget, then I have to go back to the state. They will issue the city a letter, as it was advised in the last meeting from our budget consultant, more in the steps that we're trying to do. I hear the comments and in regards to structuring the ideas, you have a 5-year outlook. And so let's get to work and get through this hurdle and work towards the other aspects.
Listen, I know we're all concerned about the 12 million for the police department. And one of the reasons is we have cops sitting in cars in certain areas of the city, and that's not the way you do policing. Get them out of the cars. If you have to spend the 12 million, 15 million, get them out of the cars, get them into the streets, and let them patrol the areas. Sitting in cars is the most unprofessional policing I've ever heard of. And all the cops I deal with throughout the United States are laughing at this. You don't put cops sitting in cars on corners. It's a joke.
I mean, it goes to what I said earlier. We should just sit down with the director and just have the conversation and open it up with him. Again, whether it's a special meeting, closed session meeting, 2x2s, just meet with him and make him accountable to that. That's it.
And another thing I gotta add, we are probably the lowest paid starting cops in the state of New Jersey. That's why a lot of cops, the young cops are leaving here, going to other towns, and a lot of people are retiring. It's a shame. They work 24 hours. We used to work around the clock. They work nights, weekends, holidays, Christmas, Easter, and they're paid, what, $41,000, and you want them to live here in the city? Doesn't work.
Hey, John, quick question. With regards to departmental heads, what is the rules? Are they appointed every 4 years, every 1 year? Do they come up for review? Like what? Because for review, yeah, for appointment.
It's 4 years.
No, for departmental heads.
Department heads is 4 years or a successor is named. That's the way that the law's written.
Because I mean, we've only, since I've been here, I think I've voted probably on Barker, Carmen, and 1 or 2 other people. The other directors haven't come up to the council to essentially justify them being in the position they're in. And part of the problem we're having now is because that process is essentially eliminated, right? It's almost a lack of accountability, if you will. If people knew that their jobs were in jeopardy, and they had to prove themselves for said jobs, they would be more attentive, more responsive, because the onus is essentially on the departmental heads to make the justification for the monies that they're spending.
Yeah, so Councilman, the ones that I believe you voted on were structural changes within the city. I was the former finance director, then we passed the torch to Carmen. We created infrastructure, and then I became ultimately the BA from the finance director. Thank you, Danny. And Danny's laughing at me. But ultimately, the other individuals were, as I said, either appointment or carryover, so they would be carryover status. And our jobs are on the line every day. We're at will employees. The mayor can decide to go a different direction any day. We're not entitled to any contracts. and the council could execute their powers to remove. I believe there's a veto power there, but there is a process that if the council did wish to remove. And I'm just going back to the conversation in whole. I think what we're talking about here is more of an operations directive. And some of those decisions that'll be made in those conversations that we're going to have are going to have tough decisions to be made. Do we remove fixed posts from high crime areas? Not saying we do or don't, but these are conversations that result in the dollar conversation. Do we scale back on training? What happens if there's a catastrophic issue as a result of that? Can we point to that or not? Maybe we're doing sufficient training and we're satisfied with what we have and we don't want to expand. So these are the conversations that are going to have to be had. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but the overtime dollars that are being spent in public safety are initiatives. And then the council and the director and the BA have to sit down and look at those directives and determine what's feasible and what's a priority. And one thing that I learned early is the most challenging thing to remove in government is a temporary program. So because there's a reason that you initiate it. So some of these fixed posts, some of the walking posts, maybe there's a way to revamp them. Maybe the hours change. But that's where a lot of the dollars are going. So it'll be a holistic conversation that we have, and we'll include finance because the dollars are being allocated.
Listen, take that $12 million, put them in radio cars, put them in unmarked cars like we used to do, and cut the crime out. Like I said, we had 5 shootings in my ward recently, and nothing is being done. Get them out of the parked cars, get them moving. And if you have to pay them overtime, pay them in the overtime. But let them at least produce and get the criminals off the street.
Do we have any more questions for Director Gandelin? Thank you. Thomas Slattery.
He spoke earlier, Thomas.
He spoke on the cannabis.
Director Flanagan.
Good afternoon. I'm going to start with item 1052. I'm here with Megan Affronti from the Clinton Foundation, so she can present this with me. It's a execution of a memorandum with the Clinton Foundation to empower faith leaders program here in Jersey City on behalf of the foundation's overdose response network to partner with HHS to build knowledge, skills, and confidence to address addiction and overdose crisis. And Meg, you want to?
With this Clinton Foundation, as Stacy said, and we have an opportunity to bring this program that we have evaluated and has shown to be successful to Jersey City, which is my hometown, and really happy to bring this here. It will be the 8th community that receives this program. And as Stacy said, it's all about building the knowledge, skills, resources, and confidence of faith leaders. In this case, it'll be chaplains to address the addiction and overdose crisis, which is unprecedented in this country and state. And basically, it's what the title is. It's empowering faith leaders to take a leadership role in their community around these issues, to help connect congregants to services, to know how to use naloxone, the overdose reversal drug, and to just provide compassionate and effective support to those who need it most. And each of the 20 participants, so each cohort is comprised of 20 faith leaders from all across traditions, so diverse leaders will receive $2,000 on their organization will receive $2,000 to plan what we call a community-based engagement project. So it's a community event with the goal of raising awareness about addiction and overdose, reducing the stigma around these issues, and distributing resources like naloxone. So my team will provide them with the technical assistance to plan these events that will engage the community. And as we said, they'll all receive funding support to pull it off. Any questions?
Okay. Next.
You can. All right, next one. all the way in the back, 1091. It's resolution 23648. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of a grant agreement with Rutgers Environmental and Occupational Health Science Institute to promote a broad understanding of health effects associated with environmental and occupational chemical exposure. We received a grant from the EPA. It's nearly $500,000. This is going out into the community related to climate and health impacts due to climate issues. Rutgers is one of the key partners. Probably next council or several council meetings from now, you'll hear of all the other partners because we'll have to bring RFP process to you.
Questions? Okay.
Next up is 1049. It is resolution 23606, a resolution ratifying the City of Jersey City's acceptance of various gifts given to the support for the participants and general public during the National HIV Testing Week, which was from June 26th through June 30th. And at the actual meeting, the next one, 1050, is a resolution acknowledging that Jersey City AIDS Task Force for the donated services and gifts and each agency has offered throughout the HIV testing week. So they'll all be here on Wednesday for the resolution. One that we, because the council president isn't here, we requested resolution 1016, a resolution honoring and celebrating the life, legacy, and achievements of Miss Inez Elizabeth Hawkins Fry. She was a 42-year employee at Health and Human Services, managing the Collier Center. She passed away last month, and we had requested a resolution for the family for the funeral. So this is just to ratify that. And the final one is item 1051, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of year 2 of our Enhancing Local Public Health Infrastructure Grant Award. And this is the $2.1 million, which is funding the offset so that the Department of Health and Human Services can reduce its budget by the 21%, which when we were asked for the 15%, we worked very closely with the BA's office and the Department of Recreation to find ways to fund programming. Some of these funds are funding pool programming. Some of these funds are funding IT, the Tableau, the Cognito, different things that impact the total local public health infrastructure, along with offsetting all of the overtime in our department.
Questions? Thank you. Sean, take it from the top.
Pleasure. Okay. All right, council members, on to our top of our agenda. First reading ordinances. Item 3.1 was touched on earlier. Item 3.2, City Ordinance 23-079. It's a franchise ordinance granting permission to 335 Washington Realty LLC and successors and signs to make private improvements, including stairs, ramps, and a platform within the public right-of-way of Washington Street and the public right-of-way of Bay Street adjacent to Lot 1.02, Block 11611 on the official tax map of the City of Jersey City. We have the attorney here, Chuck Harrington, if there's any questions by the municipal council.
I don't know if the council wants an overview of the purpose of this.
Yeah, Chuck.
Yeah, in short, this is a building that will eventually be deeded over to the city for $1. So they are renovating and refurbishing the building. So the purpose of this franchise is to allow them to reconstruct the the pier, not piers, but the platforms right outside.
Speak into the microphone, Chuck.
I'm sorry. This will allow them to rebuild the platforms right outside the building to mimic what it was historically.
Thank you. Up. Go ahead.
Isaac, come up to the podium.
He's right here, but yes. Hello. Thank you, President Pro Tempore. We just want to know, so this is just for basically rebuilding what's currently there. We just did an easement for that, what is 3 foot that's currently the loading space. And there's going to be an ADA accessible, also ADA accessible entrance. Those are the 2 things that are necessary.
Yeah, this will facilitate that. Historically, there were 2 platforms there right outside the building. So this will be reconstructed, and as part of it, it will have a accessibility. That's it.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, our next first reading ordinance is item 3.3, City Ordinance 23-080, is a franchise ordinance granting permission to 215 Warren LLC pursuant to a resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City under case number P21-153 to landscape a portion of the sidewalk up to 3.5 feet encroaching into the right-of-way of Sussex Street for the benefit of Lot 22 at Block 14202, land now or formerly known of 215 Warren LLC. Presently, the lot encroaches at least 5 feet into the right-of-way beyond the boundary lines of Lot 22 and Block 14202 and into the aforementioned rights-of-way. We have the attorney here. If anyone has questions and if you want to give a little overview.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Dean O'Connell appearing for the applicant. Basically, right now, the fence encroaches onto the city right of way by 5 feet. They're constructing a new building and they went through landscaping for the building. It was reviewed by all city agencies, especially engineering, and there's plenty of room on the sidewalk for pedestrians to get back and forth in front of the building.
Questions? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next, item 3.4 was covered earlier. Item 3.5, City Ordinance 23-082 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, authorizing the transfer of city-owned real property identified on the tax map of the City of Jersey City as Block 11401, Lot 25 to the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency. Items 3.6 and 3.7 were touched on earlier, and our last first reading ordinance, item 3.8, City Ordinance 23-085, is a franchise ordinance granting permission to 331 SIP LLC, its successors and assigns to make private improvements consisting of upper floor projections over the public sidewalk and new residential building on the south side of 331 SIP Avenue, also known as Block 11902, Lot 3-4, on the official tax map of the City of Jersey City. We have attorney here, James Burke, to give us a little overview and for the council to ask any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are we allowing overhangs over the sidewalk?
Well, answer the question. The building was approved by the zoning board. The aesthetic look of the facade, the board found very, very attractive. And the applicant asserted that these windows, and that's what they are, they're about 3 feet over the public walkway. There's 2 windows on each floor, so there's 6 windows in total. And it allows individuals in the units to actually look up and down the street, not just look out. So the eyes on the street concept was what the applicant put forth, and the board found it to be an acceptable way to go.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
I'm going to speak to a couple of people down in that area there because I don't think they're in favor of this. I got a call on this, and that's why I have it marked. So I don't think it's a good idea, overhanging the sign.
Council, we're just asking to introduce it. We have a few weeks to go through it throughout
Yeah,
the
I know.
process.
And I got complaints about it, John. Another thing in Ward C.
Okay.
Okay, on to our second reading ordinances. Item 4.1, City Ordinance 23-060 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicle Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-8, prohibited right turns on red signal to prohibit on red at all times at all approaches to the intersection of Caven Point and Chapel Avenue.
Sean,
Yes.
I know we've carried this over for a couple of meetings. We're still not where we need to be, so I'm going to move to table at that meeting on Wednesday.
Oh, do you want to carry it or do you want to hold the public hearing and table it after the close of the public hearing?
Can we table it before?
If we do, we would actually do some damage to the ordinance if we do it that way. I think it would be better if we just recommend that we carry it over to the September 7th meeting.
Well, I don't want to keep carrying it. I think we're gonna be carrying it and carrying it for the rest of the year. So I guess we can,
So I think the best thing to do is, my recommendation would be to hold the public hearing. If you're not going to change anything to the ordinance, like any of the subject of the ordinance, any material that could be, that would trigger to re-advertise it, I think then hold the public hearing on Wednesday, and then we can table it after the close of the public hearing. So then that gives you and the council an opportunity to bring it back at a future meeting when everybody is ready to vote on it.
now, if there are changes made, then what happens? Like,
So
if
depending,
traffic and engineering wants to update this ordinance,
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
if there are changes made once we table it, like let's say the ordinance needs to be revamped, they would just have to submit a whole new ordinance.
Depending on the changes, if there's substantial changes, then pretty much you would probably introduce a new ordinance replacing that ordinance that's on the tabled agenda. And then you can introduce that new ordinance, and then you can remove the ordinance from the tabled agenda and just move to defeat it.
Okay.
Alrighty, next, item 4.2, City Ordinance 23-073 is an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 160 Fees and Charges, Section 2 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Jersey City to include an exemption for owner-occupied residential structures containing 4 or fewer units.
John, I thought we were excluding up to 4 units totally, whether it was owner occupied or not. Wasn't that the agreement we made about a month ago?
I'll follow up, Councilman. I believe we were working with Councilman Solomon on this one, so we'll just ask for him for his clarity. And then we'll see if we do change that, if there's a material change, but we'll get back to you before Wednesday, Councilman.
Yeah, but I don't want, no 1 to 4 families should be exempt from all this BS. Yeah, no, it says owner occupied. So if the owner.
If you're a
doesn't-
developer and you're building a 4-unit
That's something
building,
different. If it's
that's-
development, fine.
if you're gonna live in the building, then you're exempt.
It should say new development, all right? And the existing development, 1 to 4 families should be exempt.
They are exempt. The fee is
Say that
only
here.
for new development. It's not in the title, but it's in the text.
I'll speak to Solomon when he comes in.
Councilman Solomon's the one that introduced it, so we'll make sure we get clarity from him.
Okay. Item 4.3 was touched on earlier. Item 4.4, City Ordinance 23-075 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, amending Section 332-31, parking restrictions for street cleaning purposes on North Street between Tunnelly Avenue and Terrence Avenue, and amending Ordinance 23-059. We're going to hold a public hearing on the 2023-2024 McGinley Square Special Improvement Districts and Assessment Roll and Budget. We have our public speakers, and then on to our petitions and communications. Any questions or comments on items 6.1 through 6.30? Hearing none, we have our office communications. Any questions or comments on items 7.1 through 7.19? Hearing none, report of directors 8.1 through 8.6. Any questions or comments? And we have our claims and on to our resolutions. Items 10.1 through 10.5 were touched on earlier. Item 10.6. And from 10.6 down to 10.14, these are recognizing the contributions, dedication to the BITE community for these individuals, and I'll read them into the record. There are some corrections in the titles that have to be corrected by my staff, and we'll have that done before Wednesday. First, we have Deborah Alston. And then we have Elijah Anderson, Elijah Bland, Mrs. Rosa Rooney, Amel Abdel Syed, Maggie L. Branch, Shirley Emily Peters, Richard Bland, and Bishop Bland. I believe I covered all from items 10.16 through 10.14. On to item 10.15, Resolution 23-572 is a resolution recognizing Natasha Arlabello as an honorary woman of action for her life's work protecting and conserving green space in the Greenville community. Item 10.16 was touched on earlier. Item 10.17, Resolution 23-574 is a resolution recognizing top-rated professional boxer Khalil Cole for his outstanding performance in and outside of the ring. Item 10.18, Resolution 23-575 is a resolution recognizing Brennan's Pub for its longstanding presence in the Ward A business community. Items 10.19 through 10.23 were touched on earlier. Item 10.24, Resolution 23-581 is a resolution accepting the 2023-2024 assessment roll of the McGinley Square Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Item 10.25, Resolution 23-582 is a resolution adopting and ratifying the 2023-2024 budget of the McGinley Square Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Items 10.26 and 27 were touched on earlier. Item 10.28, Resolution 585, a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City Risk Manager to issue a certificate of insurance naming Jersey City Medical Center as additional insured and authorizing the business administrator to execute an indemnification agreement with the Jersey City Medical Center for the Baby Fair event. Items 10.29 through 10.43 were touched on earlier. Item 10.44, Resolution 23-601 is a resolution of need and support from the City of Jersey City regarding 701 Newark Avenue.
Yeah, I'm requesting that this be pulled. And Chuck Harrington, I'm sorry, but you're not taking away 70 more parking spaces. One of the people are moving out of the area because they have no parking. We haven't, Mira and I have an affordable housing program being ordinance coming up. We're presenting to the council, and you have to have parking. Enough is enough. They've destroyed our area by taking away all the parking lots. People cannot park any place, and people are tired of it. Sorry, Chuck, but tell your developers they have to have parking. I mean, you're taking away 70 more parking spaces. Tony DeLuca up in that area is moving out of the city as business because he can't get a space right now. And that lot is filled every single day with 70 cars.
If I could speak on it, I don't think it's 70. I think it's 45 spaces within the lot.
I have 70, Chuck, that they marked down.
My information is 45. But regardless, the purpose of this resolution is to have support for the project for an Aspire program and the low-income housing tax program with the state, 4% tax credits. The reason for that is the project is proposed to have 20% affordable housing within the project. If approved through those programs, it would also be entirely union job. We've already, been working with the trade, so that will be built 100% union. With regard to the parking, there was at a time we wanted to try to put parking back into this. It's not required by the redevelopment plan, but because of the prior use. But Jersey City Engineering Department
0.44
told us that that they do not want any curb cuts on Nork Avenue. That would be a safety issue.
You
So,
know, they don't live, most of these people don't live in the city. I'm tired of hearing from planning. I'm tired of hearing from zoning. Chuck, people cannot park in the Journal Square area. People are moving out of the city because they can't get parking. Come down my block and see all the people in these big giant buildings where there's no parking in my neighborhood. It is horrible, and we're tired of it. Mira and I have an affordable housing program plan coming up, and it's going to probably be approved, hopefully by this council. But if you want to build there, Chuck, believe me, you got to have parking, because you're taking, you said 45, I was told 70. You know why? Because people pull in there and they double park and they park and they block it and they block it, and they're saying 70 cars average. So, you know, you're taking away 70 more spaces, and it can't happen, Chuck. You know,
I can only tell you what the Jersey City Engineering Department is telling me.
I don't care what the Jersey City Engineering Department said. They don't live in the neighborhood. They don't, most of them, a couple of them don't even live in Jersey City. They go home to their luxury homes out in the suburbs.
John, what are you gonna say, John?
A hard one to follow up on. No, the administration does support this application. Just so everybody understands, this is for them to go to the state for the SPIRE program. And it does provide 20, as Chuck said, 20% affordability. That's 72 units of affordability that we're trying to put into this. And we have talked to the developer, and he has discussed potential of some offsite parking. We're still working through the details there. But to not allow them to continue to at least apply for a tax credit at the state over parking spots would be injustice to the affordability programs that we provided throughout our.
John, you don't live in the neighborhood either, and people are tired of it. We're sick and tired of what's going on. You've taken away, Panapinto's taken away 2 big giant parking lots up in our area. There's no parking in our area. People want parking, and it's gotten out of hand. You've destroyed Journal Square, and it's over. And I'll tell you, Chuck, you're going to have a lot of people complaining, and the mayor has got to understand we are sick and tired of what's going on in Journal Square. I've agreed with you on almost everything, Chuck, but this is out of hand now. They're taking away more parking spots. As I said, the people in the building next door are moving out of the city, the businesses, because they come here, they get tickets from the parking authority. They can't park any place. Hudson City stopped people from parking in their lot. Panapinto took the lot up the corner by the Greek church. He took the other lot like Burger King. You know, it is horrible. And I don't care. We have the affordable housing program coming up, Mira and I, and that's going to be sufficient for this area.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
I'm sorry. What I can just say for the benefit of, the councilman, I think I mentioned to you and the rest of the council that I have had discussions with planning about potential other sites within the immediate area to provide for parking in future projects. So that is something that we're looking at now. It's just that this particular project, as indicated by the Jersey City Engineering Department, that the parking doesn't work with the ramping and coming in and out of North Avenue.
It does in New York City, Chuck. I was born and raised in Manhattan, and there's no problem there. That excuse about cars coming out onto Newark Avenue. No, that's not a good excuse, Chuck.
Okay.
So I do have just a question, just more as it relates to processes. This is just the request to send the application to the state for the Aspire program. Should it be approved or should it be denied? Would any piece of this come back to city council, or what would be the next step there?
Yeah, if it's part of the application process for the Aspire program and the low-income housing tax program. So if it were not approved, then as part of the Aspire program, then we'd have to kind of relook at it again. My client is the designated redeveloper through the JCRA. So that would, change the dynamics of the project, and we'd have to look at it again. I'm not sure that answers.
And if it were approved, would then this go back to the JCRA? Would any of this come back to council, or would you guys continue to move along the process of the development of the project?
We would continue the process. We would not come back to the council. We would continue with the state.
Chuck, who's the developer?
It's the Lions Group, the Shearian Group.
Where?
Shearian, Albert and Aaron Shearian.
Where are they from?
They're out of Great Neck, New York.
Good, tell them to stay in New York and stay the heck out of our neighborhood.
I knew he was gonna come with that.
And I don't care.
Okay.
Chuck, you walked right into it. So just for the council's clarity, Chuck is right. It's 45 spots. Councilman, what you're referring to is initially the conversation about the hotel expanded it up to 75, but it's 45 current. And I just want to reiterate to the council, 72 affordable units far exceeds the number of parking spots. And these are units people will live in.
What are you talking about? You talking about this project here? What are you talking about?
You even had to answer that.
John.
Councilman, we were debating whether there's 45 spots or 72 spots, and I was just clarifying that there are 45 spots. What you're referring to is that the plan allows up to 72.
Yeah. You don't realize that when people pull in there, they park alongside their cars. People in the business areas, they know them, like Tony's not going out for the day. They block his car and they block this car. And actually, there's almost 70 cars a day parking there. Of course, they illegally park and double park. They're getting tickets, but there's no parking up in the area, John. John, enough is enough. You've taken away all the parking lots in the area. Come down my block in the morning and seeing people from out of town trying to find parking spaces. It's horrible.
Okay.
All right. Do I dare to move on?
Yep, move on.
I was just trying to make a joke. All right, items 10.45, Resolution 23-602 is a resolution authorizing the change of petty cash fund custodian for the Office of Housing, Economic Development and Commerce, HEDC. Item 10.46, Resolution 23-603 is a resolution authorizing the change of petty cash fund custodian for the Office of CDBG. 10.47, Resolution 23-604 is a resolution authorizing the change of petty cash funds custodian for the Office of Accounts and Control. Item 10.48, Resolution 23-605 is a resolution appointing Heather Sporn as a member, Sustainable Jersey City, of the Jersey City Shade Tree Committee. Items 10.49 through 10.54 were touched on earlier. Item 10.55, Resolution 23-612 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Continental Hardware for the purchase and delivery of tiles for the City Hall project through the cooperative agreement between the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson for the Department of Public Works. Items 10.56 through 10.59 were touched on earlier. Item 10.60, Resolution 23-617 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Shell's Oil Company for the purchase and delivery of gasoline under the state contract for the Department of Public Works Administrative Services. Items 10.61 through 10.70 were touched on earlier. Item 10.71, Resolution 23-628 is a resolution accepting grant funds for the calendar year 2023 Clean Communities Grant from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Items 10.72 through 10.81 were touched on earlier. Item 10.82, Resolution 23-639 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing awarding program contracts for summer youth programs under the Community Block Grant Public Services CDBG for program year April 1st, 2022 through March 30th, 2023. Item 10.83, Resolution 23-640 is a resolution authorizing the settlement of Sabrina Howell versus the City of Jersey City, docket number HUD 1-2134-20. Item 10.84, Resolution 23-641 is a resolution authorizing the settlement of lawsuit Sanders versus the City of Jersey City, docket number HUD L 50921. Item 10.85, Resolution 23-642 is a resolution authorizing the settlement That will be corrected. It's not spelled correctly. Settlement of Vanessa Gross versus the City of Jersey City, Stephen McGill, Joseph Menendez, and Mark A. Petroselli, docket number 2:18-CV-09802, JMV-AME. 10.86, Resolution 23-643 is a resolution authorizing the settlement of a lawsuit Sabrina Pagan versus Eduardo Rivera, docket number HUD L 501-19.
Obviously, I'm welcome. I'm happy to answer any questions about those matters privately if the council would like to reach out, and you'll be getting some paperwork on that in the next day or so.
On standby on the next one. Item 10.87, Resolution 23-644 is a resolution renewing the professional service agreement with Charles Montaigne to provide legal counsel to the City of Jersey City regarding Conrail's abandonment of the 6th Street embankment.
John, how many millions have we spent over the last 10 years on this BS?
Councilman, I have, I sent you the billing. I will get the updated billing, but it's been just going back to 2006. It's been just over $1 million.
Oh, no, it's a lot more than that.
Councilman, you're incorrect.
What?
You are incorrect on how much we billed the council on this.
Much more than 1 million, Peter.
I mean,
we've been hiring lawyers for we've been fighting, what's the fellow that died, his wife for the last 10 years, court.
Steve Hyman.
And at that time, it was millions of dollars. John, this is out of hand.
Okay. All right. Items 10.
Motion.
No, not yet. I'm with you. Item 10.88 and 10.89 were touched on earlier. Item 10.90, Resolution 23-647 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City in supporting of urging Governor Murphy, the Jersey City delegation to the state legislature, New Jersey Department of Transportation Commissioner, and New Jersey Transit and its Board of Commissioners to take any and all immediate action necessary to ensure the service provided by number 30 Society Hill Bus Line, number 31 Montgomery West Side Bus Line, number 32 440 Shopper Bus Line, and number 33 Bergen Avenue Bus Line to continue uninterrupted service to the City of Jersey City community. Item 10.91 was touched on earlier. Now, may I have a motion to adjourn at 12:52 p.m.?
Motion.
Oh, all right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to give the motion to Councilperson Saleh since he was first before and he was kind of first on that one. And I'm going to give the close second to Councilperson Prinzeri and the third by Councilperson Gilmore, which is not necessary. On the motion to adjourn at 12:52 p.m., all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 12:52 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody present and everybody watching at home. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night.